In this video, the chilling story of a couple who embarked on a dream voyage around the world is uncovered, a journey fueled by their desire for freedom, adventure, and a life lived on the open sea. Jack and Emily Harris were ordinary people with an extraordinary dream, but one fatal mistake transformed their dream into a nightmare. The video delves deeply into what went wrong and how something seemingly simple led to devastating consequences. It's not just a cautionary tale, it's a vital wake-up call for every sailor, cruiser, and ocean dreamer. The narrative walks viewers through the entire sequence of events, highlighting overlooked warning signs and critical lessons that could potentially save boats and lives alike. From hidden structural vulnerabilities to essential safety systems that failed at the worst possible moment, the story reveals just how fragile and unforgiving a voyage can become when even one decision goes wrong. Drawing from real-world experience and the hard-earned knowledge of those who have lived through similar tragedies, viewers are given practical advice on what steps could have prevented disaster. This story serves as a powerful reminder: before casting off on any journey, sailors must be thoroughly prepared, because what happened to Jack and Emily could happen to anyone. Jack and Emily Harris lived in Annapolis, Maryland, and were much like many who dream of the sea, ordinary individuals with a passion for sailing and adventure. They had spent years exploring the Chesapeake Bay, perfecting their sailing skills on weekend trips and coastal cruises. Jack, at 42, was a mechanical engineer with an impressive talent for repairing everything from diesel engines to rigging systems, while Emily, 39, was a school teacher with a deep love for navigation and an unwavering presence by Jack's side. Together, they formed the perfect team, their complementary skills sharpened over more than a decade of sailing their 38-foot Island Packet, a sturdy bluewater cruiser named Wanderlust. This boat, built in 1990 by Island Packet Yachts in Florida, was not a luxury yacht but rather a reliable, solid workhorse designed for long ocean passages. It featured a full keel, a draft of 4 feet 6 inches, and a hefty displacement of 21,000 pounds, equipped with 800 square feet of sail area and powered by a 50-horsepower Yanmar diesel engine. These features made Wanderlust ideal for the ambitious journey they had planned: a circumnavigation of the globe. The couple's dream truly began to take shape in 2022 when they made the bold decision to sell their home, quit their jobs, and dedicate themselves entirely to this once-in-a-lifetime adventure. They invested 2 years preparing Wanderlust for the journey ahead, pouring their savings into upgrades and essential maintenance to ensure the boat was ocean-ready. Among their improvements, they installed a new mainsail and genoa, both sourced from North Sails and reinforced with extra stitching for enhanced durability. They meticulously cleaned and tested their water and fuel tanks, 170 gallons of water and 57 gallons of fuel, to guarantee they could sustain themselves for weeks without needing to reprovision. To supplement their freshwater supply, they added a water maker capable of producing 6 gallons of fresh water per hour. Their power needs were met by 2 100-watt solar panels charging a bank of 12-volt AGM batteries, ensuring they had electricity even when the sun was not shining. Their navigation systems were also carefully upgraded, featuring a Raymarine chart plotter for precise route planning, an AIS transponder for tracking and safety, and a single sideband radio designed for long-range communication. Safety gear included a 46 MHz APERB, a personal locator beacon, and a 10-foot inflatable dinghy for shore excursions. Every through-hull fitting was inspected, and each seacock was greased to prevent failure. Perhaps most crucially, the standing rigging, the wire cables that support the mast, was replaced with 5 16-inch, 1x19 stainless steel wire to provide maximum strength and reliability. All of these preparations reflected Jack and Emily's serious commitment to making their voyage as safe as possible. Their planned route was a classic westward circumnavigation beginning in Annapolis in June 2023. From there, they intended to sail down the Chesapeake Bay to Norfolk, Virginia, before setting out on a 1,200-mile passage to the Caribbean. After the Caribbean, they would transit the Panama Canal and cross the vast Pacific Ocean to the Marquesas Islands, then continue on to Tahiti, Fiji, and Australia. Their journey would then take them across the Indian Ocean to Mauritius, then South Africa, and finally back across the Atlantic to the United States. Each leg of this route presented its own challenges and required careful preparation. But Jack and Emily were confident their meticulous planning and thorough upgrades had prepared them for whatever lay ahead. However, despite their experience and careful preparation, it was one unforeseen mistake that ultimately jeopardized their entire voyage, reminding all ocean travelers just how quickly circumstances can change at sea. The journey that Jack and Emily embarked on spanned roughly 25,000 nautical miles, following a route well known to experienced cruisers. This path had established stops for reprovisioning and repairs, but despite being familiar, it was not without significant risks. The sheer vastness of the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean's unpredictable and often violent squalls, and the Atlantic's notoriously stormy seasons all demanded a deep respect and careful preparation. Aware of these challenges, Jack and Emily dedicated themselves to meticulous planning. They spent countless hours studying weather patterns and poring over the stories and logs of other circumnavigators. They became active members of sailing forums like Cruisers Forum and SciLet, tapping into the collective knowledge of seasoned sailors who had faced the very same oceans. Their departure from Annapolis was nothing short of a personal triumph. Surrounded by friends and family gathered at the dock, they watched as their vessel, Wanderlust, slipped her lines and glided away. The boat's white hull sparkled in the summer sun, signaling the start of an epic adventure. The first leg of the journey down the Chesapeake Bay went smoothly. Aided by gentle 10-knot winds that pushed them along at a steady 6 knots, they made a brief stop in Norfolk to inspect their systems and refuel before setting out toward the Caribbean, their excitement mounting with every passing mile. The passage to the British Virgin Islands, a stretch of about 1,200 miles, tested both their endurance and seamanship. Around the 5th day, the calm seas gave way to a fierce squall, bringing 30-knot winds and towering 10-foot waves. Jack acted quickly, reefing the mainsail to reduce its area by 40%, while Emily took the helm, expertly steering Wanderlust on a broad reach to ride out the waves. The strain on their Raymarine EV-400 autopilot was intense. It struggled to keep course under such conditions. They soon switched to hand steering, spending hours on watch, clipped into harnesses attached to jacklins on the deck for safety. The physical and mental toll was exhausting, but they emerged from the storm intact, their confidence bolstered by having weathered the challenge together. Once in Tortola, they found respite among a welcoming community of fellow cruisers. Evenings were spent swapping stories over rum punches, building camaraderie born of shared experience. It was here they discovered a tear in their Genoa sail. Jack made a quick patch with sail tape, promising a more permanent repair once conditions allowed. The Caribbean itself was a paradise of crystal-clear turquoise waters and consistent trade winds, but it was also a place that demanded vigilance. In Grenada, a critical maintenance issue came to light. Corrosion had set in on one of the lower shrouds, the steel wires that support the mast. This was a common but serious problem in saltwater environments where stainless steel can conceal fatigue until failure. They tackled the repair head-on, replacing the corroded shroud with a 20-foot spare wire secured with staylock fittings. The work took a full day under the relentless tropical sun, with Jack sweating through the effort. It served as a stark reminder of the constant upkeep that long-term cruising requires. Provisioning for the voyage was another ongoing challenge. With limited storage aboard Wanderlust, they learned to carefully manage 170 gallons of fresh water and 200 pounds of dry goods. Emily became adept at baking bread in their small propane oven, adding a comforting sense of home to their meals. Meanwhile, Jack worked on maintaining the water maker, which clogged twice due to the plankton-rich coastal waters they sailed through. Each problem was a learning experience, sharpening their skills and reinforcing their resilience. One of the most significant logistical hurdles came in January 2024, when they navigated the Panama Canal. They paid $2,500 in fees, hired professional line handlers, and maneuvered through the complex Gatun locks. To maximize space, Wanderlust was rafted alongside a larger yacht. The 50-mile transit took 2 days, with Jack and Emily taking turns at the helm, skillfully dodging freighters and managing strong 8-knot currents. Emerging into the Pacific Ocean brought a wave of excitement and anticipation. Ahead lay the largest ocean of all, a daunting 4,000-mile crossing to the Marquesas Islands. Before setting out, they stocked up heavily in Panama City, filling every available locker with essentials like rice, beans, and canned goods. Their 57-gallon diesel tank was topped off, providing enough fuel for approximately 300 hours of motoring at 2,000 RPM, a critical backup in case the wind died. The Pacific crossing was their longest leg yet, a grueling 30-day marathon on the open sea. To manage the physical and mental demands, they established a routine of 3-hour watches, alternating between day and night shifts. This rhythm became their lifeline, keeping them alert and connected as they pushed steadily toward their next destination. They sailed wing on wing with the mainsail set on one side and the Genoa pulled out on the other, perfectly balancing the forces to maximize their speed under the steady 15-knot trade winds. Their average speed hovered around 5.5 knots, allowing them to cover an impressive 130 miles each day. Below deck, the water maker hummed steadily, producing about 6 gallons of fresh water daily, a crucial resource in the middle of the vast ocean. However, a clogged filter soon forced them to ration their water supplies for 2 tense days until Jack managed to replace the membrane and restore full production. Fishing was not only a pastime but a necessity, and they managed to catch mahi-mahi using a simple handline, supplementing their diet with fresh fish. As night fell, they were mesmerized by the ethereal glow of bioluminescent plankton lighting up their wake, painting the dark ocean with shimmering blue trails. Despite the beauty, the crushing isolation of the open sea was always present. With no land in sight, their only link to the outside world was the SSB radio, through which they downloaded weather updates by accessing GRIB files via a PAC modem, technology that proved indispensable in such remote conditions. A minor scare disrupted their routine when the autopilot's clutch slipped unexpectedly. This malfunction forced Jack to spend 4 grueling hours recalibrating the hydraulic ram, all while the boat rolled underfoot in the restless sea. The Marquesas Islands finally appeared on the horizon, their lush, jagged peaks rising from the ocean like emerald sentinels. These islands, with their clear, sheltered anchorages, were a welcome relief from weeks at sea. They dropped anchor in Taiohae Bay on Nukuhiva and spent several weeks exploring the island's rugged terrain, trading canned goods for fresh tropical fruit with the friendly locals. Yet, the Pacific Ocean continued to challenge them. In Tahiti, they patched a torn seam on the mainsail using a sail-right sewing machine they had thoughtfully brought aboard, turning what could have been a costly delay into a manageable repair. Fiji tested their resolve further. Algae had contaminated their fuel, clogging the Yanmar engine's filters and threatening to immobilize them. Jack tackled the problem by flushing the tank with a biocide called Biocide, a messy and time-consuming job that took 2 days. Meanwhile, Emily scrubbed the hull to remove barnacles and other marine growth, which boosted their boat's speed by about half a knot. These relentless maintenance tasks and constant problem-solving embodied the true reality of cruising life, a never-ending cycle of adaptation and care that seasoned liveaboard sailors know well. By August 2024, after months of sailing, they arrived in Australia, docking in Cairns after a demanding 2,500-mile passage from Fiji. The Great Barrier Reef was one of the standout highlights of this leg. Navigating the maze of coral heads required precise chart plotting and careful daylight transits to avoid the hidden dangers beneath the waves. They spent several months in Australia, hauling Wanderlust out of the water for a thorough bottom job. New anti-fouling paint was applied meticulously to protect the hull from marine growth, preserving speed and fuel efficiency. The anchor chain was upgraded, swapping out 200 feet of 3 8-inch galvanized chain for lighter yet stronger high-tensile G4 chain, easing the overall weight burden without compromising safety. Socially, this period proved rejuvenating. They connected with other cruisers, sharing barbecues and swapping stories about their voyages, including valuable tips for the upcoming Indian Ocean passages. The camaraderie of the cruising community proved to be a vital lifeline, a source of comfort, knowledge, and shared enthusiasm. Their next great challenge was the Indian Ocean, known for its unpredictable squalls and fickle winds, a daunting 2,000-mile crossing from Cocos Islands to Mauritius. They left Cocos in November 2024 with Wanderlust in what they believed was peak condition. Though they had thoroughly inspected the rigging in Australia, they overlooked one critical piece of equipment: the preventer line. This half-inch drawn line, running from the boom to a pad eye on the deck, was designed to prevent the boom from swinging dangerously in an accidental jibe, a sudden and violent shift of the mainsail caused by a change in wind direction. The preventer line was old, its fibers frayed from prolonged exposure to UV rays. Jack, pressed for time and confident the line would hold for one more passage, chose to leave it in place, a small oversight that would have dire consequences. 10 days into the crossing, they were sailing wing on wing in 20-knot winds with 8-foot seas rolling beneath them. The weather had been stable, with a high-pressure system forecast for the next 48 hours. Jack was on watch, carefully adjusting the wind vane self-steering system, a mechanical monitor model that kept Wanderlust on course without the need for power. Below deck, Emily was busy plotting their position on a paper chart, cross-referencing GPS coordinates to ensure their navigation remained accurate. Suddenly, at 2 a.m., a rogue squall swept across the ocean, a phenomenon common in the Indian Ocean, where warm waters can quickly fuel violent, unpredictable storms. Winds spiked to 35 knots, and a massive 12-ton wave lifted Wanderlust's stern, abruptly shifting the apparent wind direction. The mainsail, caught off guard on the wrong side, began to jibe uncontrollably. Under a load exceeding 2,000 pounds, the preventer line snapped like a brittle twig. The boom, a heavy 15-foot aluminum spar weighing 200 pounds, swung violently across the cockpit with tremendous force. Jack, who had been adjusting the vang, the line controlling the boom's vertical angle, was struck in the chest and thrown overboard. His harness had become unclipped in the chaos. Emily heard the terrifying crash and rushed on deck, her headlamp cutting a narrow beam through the thick darkness. She saw the boom thrashing wildly, the mainsail flapping violently, and Jack nowhere to be seen. Desperately, she threw a life ring tethered to the boat, but the turbulent sea swallowed it instantly. She screamed his name, her voice barely audible above the howling wind and crashing waves. Despite the overwhelming fear, training and presence of mind took over. Emily quickly furled the Genoa, dropped the mainsail and started the engine. She circled the boat repeatedly, searching with the spotlight, but all she found were whitecaps and swirling foam. 2 long hours passed, exhaustion creeping in and fuel running dangerously low. Realizing the gravity of the situation, she activated the APIRB, sending a 406 MHz distress signal to rescue services. She broadcasted a mayday call on VHF channel 16 and over the SSB radio, but no vessels responded. Alone in the 35-knot winds, Emily secured the boom, tied down any loose gear, and set a sea anchor, a parachute-like device designed to stabilize the boat in rough conditions, doing everything in her power to keep Wanderlust safe as she waited for help. Rescue finally arrived 18 hours after the emergency began, when a French yacht about 50 miles away altered its course to provide assistance. Upon reaching the scene, the crew found Emily in a state of hypothermia and shock, clinging to life, but there was no sign of Jack. The Mauritius Coast Guard immediately launched a search operation, scouring the waters for 72 grueling hours before reluctantly calling it off. Jack was presumed lost at sea, a heartbreaking loss that sent ripples through the close-knit cruising community. With the support of fellow sailors, Emily managed to sail the boat, Wanderlust, to Mauritius. There, she spent weeks confronting the immense grief and overwhelming guilt that followed such a tragic event. The trauma was so profound that she eventually made the painful decision to sell the boat. Unable to continue the journey without Jack, she returned to the United States, her lifelong dream shattered and her world forever changed. What exactly went wrong? The key fatal error lay in the preventer line, a relatively inexpensive piece of gear, costing around $50, and something that could have been replaced in under an hour. However, over years of relentless exposure to the sun's ultraviolet rays, the synthetic line had quietly degraded, losing its strength and integrity without visible signs. This silent weakening is a common and dangerous issue with synthetic ropes left exposed on boats for extended periods. Had they installed a new line made from Dyneema, a modern, ultra-strong fiber with a breaking strength upwards of 10,000 pounds, it would have held firm under the immense strain. Another critical mistake was Jack's decision to work on deck without wearing a harness. This choice, likely influenced by fatigue and a false sense of familiarity with the boat and conditions, proved deadly. In winds gusting to 35 knots and seas towering up to 12 feet, being tethered by a clipped harness to a jackline would have kept him aboard even after the forceful impact of the boom. These mistakes might seem minor in isolation, but the ocean is unforgiving. Small oversights can quickly turn fatal. There had been warning signs. While still in Australia, another cruiser had advised them to check their preventer lines carefully. Jack, however, dismissed the advice, preoccupied with other repairs. Their weather forecast, downloaded via SSB radio, showed a stable high-pressure system, but squalls in the Indian Ocean are notoriously unpredictable. The region's warm waters and trade winds often spawn sudden violent storms that are difficult to anticipate. A GRIB weather file from 12 hours earlier might have revealed a forming low-pressure system, which could have prompted them to reef the sails early or avoid sailing wing-on-wing. A maneuver that leaves the boat more vulnerable. Adding to the risk was their exhaustion. After 10 days at sea, their vigilance was dulled, and fatigue clouded their judgment, a common and dangerous reality on long ocean passages. From this tragedy, several critical lessons emerge. First, sailors must regularly inspect and replace vital lines before every passage. Preventer lines should be examined for signs of chafing, UV damage, and structural weakness. Using high-performance fibers such as Dyneema or Spectra, which boast superior strength-to-weight ratios, is strongly recommended. Second, never work on deck in challenging weather without a harness clipped securely to a jack line or strong hardpoint. Modern harnesses equipped with quick-release shackles and personal AIS beacons can make the difference between life and death. Third, constant weather monitoring is essential. Satellite phones or devices like the Iridium Go provide real-time updates that supplement traditional SSB weather data, allowing sailors to anticipate sudden squalls. Finally, thorough emergency preparation is crucial. Emily's sea anchor and APIRB were life-saving in this case. But having a pre-planned man-overboard procedure, including GPS waypoints and tethered life slings, could improve rescue chances dramatically. This tragedy is far from unique. In 2019, a cruiser off the coast of South Africa died when a jibe caused a preventer line to snap, crushing his skull. In 2021, a couple in the Pacific Ocean survived a similar accident only because they were wearing harnesses. Sailing forums such as Sailing Anarchy and Cruisers Forum abound with stories of near misses, where frayed lines, skipped inspections, or lapses in protocol turned routine passages into disasters. Jack and Emily's story serves as a stark wake-up call, a reminder that the ocean demands respect, rigorous preparation, and humility. For anyone planning their own passages, the advice is clear. Thoroughly check your rigging from the shrouds to the preventer lines, using tools like magnifying glasses to detect corrosion, cracks, or other subtle damage. Test all safety equipment including APIRBs, life jackets, and harness tethers, and conduct regular man-overboard drills with your crew to ensure readiness. Investing in reliable weather routing services like Predict Wind helps anticipate dangerous weather long before it arrives. Most importantly, never skip wearing a harness, regardless of how calm the sea may appear. The ocean does not care about your experience, your confidence, or your dreams. It punishes mistakes without mercy. Emily's life was irrevocably changed by this event, but she has chosen to share her story to prevent others from suffering a similar fate. In Mauritius, she spoke at a cruisers gathering, her voice cracking as she urged sailors to double-check their gear and never take safety lightly. Now back in Annapolis, she teaches navigation to aspiring sailors, passing on Jack's love of the sea while also warning of its dangers. Wanderlust sails on under new ownership, a bittersweet symbol of a dream that ended in tragedy. Before setting sail, every sailor should ask themselves, are your lines strong enough? Are your safety systems ready? Are you clipped in? Because if you neglect these essential precautions, Jack and Emily's story could become yours. For more stories of survival, lessons learned, and respect for the sea, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. See you on the next one.